Okay, so Abbas Arakchi has finally arrived in Islamabad. Over here, the whole city has been waiting for an update the last week, and today we finally have two important updates. Just a few hours ago, Abbas Arakchi announced that he's going to depart for Islamabad, and that trip will be followed by visits to Oman and Moscow. And then we got an update from the White House saying that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff will also be departing for Islamabad. So, do you think, Saqib, that this is the revival of Islamabad Talks 2.0 that we were waiting for last weekend? And what can we see happening in the next few hours?
I think the last week or so has been sort of a stalemate in terms of these negotiations. Since the last couple of days, there have been reports that the talks might have failed. There was a lot of disappointment in terms of the progress in talks. But I think with today, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif talking to the Iranian Foreign Minister, and after that, another the Deputy Prime Minister talking to Abbas Araghchi, I think this has led to some sort of a breakthrough. And now we've heard, as you mentioned, that the Iranian foreign minister has arrived in Islamabad, and we are also hearing that the American delegation will be in Islamabad probably Sunday morning. We also know that the logistical and support team of the American delegation is already in Islamabad. So uh, it it signals that there was an expectation from the American side that the Iranians might be arriving soon, and that essentially has happened. But still, there are a lot of information that is not available to us. So, for example, Abbas Araghchi is supposed to visit Moscow and Muscat after this. So we still don't know the nature of the talks. But I was listening to the White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt, who said that American delegation is traveling to Islamabad for direct talks. So probably we have a breakthrough, and we might see that in the next 24 or 48 hours, there might be a big news coming out of Islamabad.
Right. And Aswin, what do you make of the atmosphere in Islamabad the last week? I think there was a point when we were hearing that talks are out of the news cycle. But how do you see the recent developments happening?
So Islamabad has been on a standby for more than a week now. We saw the first round of these talks, which were seen by many as a step in the right direction, and then those steps literally stopped. But in the background, we heard that the army chief has been in talks with Iran and the USA. So, as Saqib mentioned, that there was a lot of back and forth. There was sort of a stalemate between the US and the Iran. I mean, you take Strait of Hormuz. In the last week, we saw there were blockades by the Iranian military, and then there was blockades by the USA, and it was a complete stalemate. And every analyst that you speak to, every analyst that you hear, they were talking about how they have to come to they have to sit down and talk it out at some point. And since today, since around 5 o'clock in the afternoon or in the evening, the talk started again. That the foreign minister of Iran is supposed to come to Pakistan, and then his tweet confirmed it. And then Jared Kushner and Witkoff confirmed that they will be arriving into Islamabad for the second round of these talks. So I believe it's a step in the right direction. I'm standing by the Marriott Hotel, and the it has been completely closed off. The red zone will be completely closed off for the next couple of days, which means there will be no movement around these streets, these roads. But hopefully, everyone's hoping, having their fingers crossed, that finally these talks will become substantial. Something substantial has to come out of it.
That's true. Islamabadis have been paying a huge price for these talks. But I'll come back to Abbas Araghchi's tweet, Saqib. I think it was a lot of people were analyzing it. At first, people thought that he's only talking of a bilateral meeting with the Pakistanis. But then I think what's important is his trip to Oman and Russia as well. Why? What do you think is the significance, especially of his trip to Russia? Okay, I think Saqib, we've lost him for a bit. Um, do you think the talks, do you think the inclusion of Russia in his trip has something to do with the clause in their original 10 points that they want a confirmation from the UNSC? In fact, they want to pass a resolution for no more interference in Iran.
So Russia has been a close ally of Iran, and we've known that from the beginning. There have been a lot of talks of how Russia has been involved in this whole thing. But I believe the Iranians going to multiple countries now, including Pakistan, they want to obviously sit down now. They want to find the right way to move forward. And I think we've had enough of these. I mean, it started on February the 28th, and the world has seen enough now. So I believe it's a step in the right direction when Iran is trying to speak to multiple countries now, get their perspective, and move on with it finally.
Of course, we do know that on the back end, China is playing a really important role as well. But over here in Pakistan, especially in Islamabad, we've somehow again become the center of this conversation. How do you think the next 2 days are going to play out, Osman?
So, I mean, there won't be a lot of information that's going to come out just like the last time around. I mean, there was a lot of journalists that traveled from abroad to get that scoop, and they were not able to get it. And I believe it was so tightly gripped, the information, that no one wanted to talk about it from any front. From the USA's point of view, they wanted to stay a little hush hush. Iran came out very aggressively at one point as well, that they were not happy with what America was trying to impose on them. And I believe Donald Trump's tweets in the past few days have shown that they do want to sit down now. Yes, Islamabad is in talks of every channel, every news agency out there. Yes, there will be a lot of journalists traveling again, but I doubt that anything will change. I believe the information will be tightly gripped again. So as soon as these meetings are over, that's when everyone will find out what happened, and everyone is hoping for these negotiations to go ahead and find the right spot, find that final hook for everyone to be comfortable with and move on from this.
Right. And as you mentioned, Donald Trump's tweets, you never really know with him, right? One day he's ready for peace and then he's really going all out, especially with what was happening between the navies this past week. But I think one thing that he has been consistent with is his appreciation for Pakistan and, of course, his favorite Field Marshal Asim Munir. And actually, a week ago, when Islamabad talks were meant to happen, well, the 2.0 was meant to happen last weekend, Donald Trump did say that if these talks happen in Pakistan, he will come. And I think what's really important to note in the recent statement from the White House is that there is a team that's on standby, and they will be engaged according to how the talks between, of course, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner go with the Iranian delegation, who, by the way, also we don't know if it's just Abbas Araghchi or somebody else is also part of that delegation. So do you think eventually we're going to see Donald Trump come to Pakistan?
I believe everyone's eyeing for JD Vance. I mean, the security protocol is that the vice president and the president cannot be in this at the same place at the same time. So I believe Donald Trump will be coming to Pakistan if these talks become substantial, if they move into a right direction. The next step that everyone is watching for or looking at is, I believe, the vice president JD Vance coming back after Jared Kushner and Witkoff have the initial talks with the Iranians, I believe.
Do we have Saqib back in the transmission? I guess we don't because we're really at the peak of the route right now. I think Abbas Araghchi has just arrived and we're expecting others to arrive soon. The US delegation is going to leave their morning on Saturday, and the next 2 days will be Islamabad Talks 2.0. And stay with us on Pakistan TV Digital as we keep you updated on how these talks go.